I am back at the Shmuseum, and there is currently a missing Shmeemobile. In fact, more than one car that's currently missing. Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello, and welcome back to the channel where today we're gonna go and collect my Ford GT, which, believe it or not, is now 5 years old. It's been off at GT 101 for its 5th year service, and I've just been running through all of the costs along the way. We're talking servicing, tyres, brake pads, insurance, we've had road tax, we've had plenty of things, and it's perhaps a little bit surprising, and I want to run through that with you today. So we're about to hop into our Genesis team car to head over to GT 101 to go pick up the GT, to bring it back, but it's getting quite full in here, and we might be having a little problem with that soon. As you can see, we have a lot of cars here at the moment. The Halo Bay is occupied, the end space is occupied, the 7 Benpack auto stackers are mostly occupied. My friend's SF90 Assetto Fiorano is underneath the LT. Yes, we have 3 spaces when we pop these ones up, but those are going to go very quickly. We actually have the MSRT Transit in the very center. We've also got Max's Jag, the XJ220. We've got my friend Richard's Murcielago SV, which is stunning. We've got Dub Customs TVR. We've got Brad's Abarth 124, and we've got the Genesis. And at the moment, we're missing the Ford GT, and we are also missing the Zenvo TSRS, and more on that very soon. Throw in the fact, and you don't know this yet, that we're about to have and 2 other cars coming in that are going to be here for a little bit. I'm not sure yet how this is going to work, but we'll figure it out. Before we go anywhere, some very exciting news that Shmoo the Cow is back. Of course, the Shmee 150 mascot we introduced last year, available right now in the Shmee 150 eBay shop. Now remember that my garage is a barn on a farm here in England. This literally used to be the milking parlour. It was filled with cattle. So we introduced this little guy in the Shmee 150 colours. He's got the Shmuseum embroidery on his paw, the swing tag. Take a look at this as well. Hi guys, I'm Shmoo, of course, and available again. Now on both previous occasions, these sold out in lightning speed, so I don't want to have to say I told you so later on. Grab one while you can. For now though, I think both of these guys are going to be coming with us because we've got a GT to go and collect. I think it's fair to say that my GT is a pretty special car. In fact, out of every car that I've ever owned, it is easily the most special. The stories behind the GT itself, and then everything that I've done with it, all of the adventures and all of the videos that I've shared over the last 5 years. In fact, even up here in my office, I have this artwork by Garen Nikogosian, the designer of the car, this tribute back to the original Alan Mann Racing GT40s of the 60s. Even my office chair from Noble Chairs is Ford GT themed, and of course over in the cabinets with my model cars we have one, and also actually here on my desk is a t-shirt of the GTLM from Le Mans, which was a gift from Pat Milliken Ford when I bought the Mustang Dark Horse last October. So it's a car that's done a lot over the last 5 years, and I want to almost recap back a bit to understand where some of the costs of the car have come from, some of the things that we've done and what they've led to. It will make sense a little bit later on, and it really begins before I even took delivery. The whole spec process, wanting to create this tribute to Alan Mann Racing, hence going down there where I met with Henry and Tom Mann, the sons of the late Alan Mann, who very kindly both supported the project but also offered me some original paint that they use for the heritage restorations to send to Ford and Multimatic to make my new GT the very first one to leave the factory with bespoke painted stripes. And that was just the beginning. Delivery day was at the famous Goodwood Motor Circuit, a legendary venue in some epic company with cars from Ford GB, also from Alan Mann Racing, and my Focus RSs. I then changed the wheels to the BBS FIRs, a very limited set that was made that are even lighter than the carbon fibre wheels, again from the GT LM race car. It's been on so many drives, including out to the Nürburgring Nordschleife in Germany. I also took it to Sparco in Italy, where we redid the seats with a bespoke red and gold stitching, making it one of the only OEM supported custom interiors on a new GT in the entire world. It went over to Sardinia to join the Pagani Raduno, an amazing drive, literally a ferry overnight and a ferry overnight back the next night back again as well, before going to Monaco. It's been to the United States, took delivery from JFK Airport before driving it to Times Square, New York, where of course promptly I was pulled over as well, as you'd expect. That happened a few more times out there. I've taken part in some drag races with it, like with Brooks with his original older Ford GT. In California, I fitted the Akrapovic titanium sports exhaust, an upgrade that I had bought over there at Galpin Ford. Went to Car Week, Monterey and all of the activities around there before joining up with DDE to absolutely slay the tyres at the Hoonigan Burnyard, which nearly went wrong, it's safe to say, but was a lot of fun before bringing the car back over to Europe and some more runs on the Autobahn, heading up towards VMAX, before more recently heading to Quicksilver for a new exhaust system, a totally bespoke exhaust made from Inconel with Shmoo 150 graphics. That sounds amazing. And then it featured the pop art wrap from Louette. For my supercar owner's circle trip down to Spain to join tons of other hypercars, it wore this new artwork, this controversial talking point for sure, before recently being unwrapped back to its full former glory. So it's driven around 12,000 miles and had a whole lot going on along the way, but we should probably hop into the Genesis, get over to GT101, and explain a little bit more about everything to do with my Ford GT. As you can possibly hear, it is very windy today. We have Shmoo the Cow everywhere. Our original cutout, Super Shmoo, is chilling in the lounge, and I'm even wearing my Shmoody. Yes, sorry, I did that. Anyway, team car time, the Genesis. We like to have a long-termer on fleet, a car that we use for exactly this purpose. We're heading, obviously, it's an hour and a bit away to get to GT101, but this is a great car to just hop into, take our stuff, and make the journey over. So let's get this started. Let's go see the GT, which is always fun. This is actually only the third time I've ever driven this. Once to Heathrow for the drop-off before going to America when I'd just arrived, and second, just home last night when I got back from the airport. So let's go. I have intentionally driven here because of this 6'6" width restriction, and I'm imagining anybody in the United States right now would be like, what on earth is the point in that? But this car with this button has something really nifty. With the different camera settings, you can literally change it to see the sides of your wheels. So I can drive up to this using the cameras, obviously from the mirrors, and know exactly how wide it is. And I can promise you, in any big car, you are not driving through here. You just wouldn't even do it. You wouldn't even try. 6'6" is very narrow. Anybody with an F-150, good luck. You're not getting through there. That is super convenient. Now, if the posts are taller and you'd need to fold in the mirrors, that would be a problem because then you'd lose the cameras. But for doing that, really quite convenient. And given we have quite a few of those around, I'm appreciating it. That is a bit of technology that I actually wish more cars would offer that easily, that readily available, because we have now safely navigated through something that otherwise would be an enormous problem. And the other cool thing, which I actually showed before, is that when you indicate, so going left here, it pops up the left camera on the left dial on the screen, which is again very convenient. Oh look, how wonderful is this? Traffic, 40 miles an hour on the motorway. I tell you what, every time when I've come back to the UK, whether it's from the US or from a tour around Europe, it's the traffic, it's the jams, it's the bad quality roads, and it's the bad standards of driving, dare I say it. Oh well, it is what it is. On the motorway, and we shall, that's strange, look, it's totally empty and flowing, and it becomes 70 at the next bridge. How bizarre. Well, I gotta say, this is a very comfortable cruise. We're still going, there's quite a lot of traffic today, not particularly exciting, but given what we're doing is just driving from A to B right now, to be honest, once you've popped it on adaptive cruise and you can turn on the steering assist as well, life's pretty chilled. That's what it should be, but we're not too far away now from getting to GT101. The last time I came here was with the GT500 when it came for its first service on this side of the pond. We are about to arrive, and last time I did this, I nearly overshot. Where are we going exactly? GT101. GT101 because Dave here was part of the team that was initially responsible for the 101 0506 GTs that came to Europe. That is a nice GT4 in a very nice colour scheme. I like that a lot. I miss my old GT4 sometimes. Brilliant car to drive. So let's park this up. Use all those cameras. We'll pop in, go say hello, and figure out what's up with the car and take it from there. Go with the flow. We are going to go through to my car in just a second, but here at GT101, I always love this. We took a look at these last time. This is the new Ford GT engine, the 3.5 litre EcoBoost twin turbocharged. This is the OG Ford GT, the 5.4 litre supercharged power plant, and we're going to come back to that in a second as we come round. First up, check this out. This is like half a Ford GT, but the thing I find really interesting, which I often talk about but you can't really see, is this built-in roll cage. So when you're inside the car, this is all behind the Alcantara trim, so you don't know about it, but it's fully built in through the A-pillars because effectively the road car and race car were developed completely in sync with one another. So you've got the carbon fibre monocoque underneath, obviously these carbon fibre finishing sills that you have, but fully enclosed inside the cage, which is very clever. Over here, randomly, is a 992 Carrera S, because this is from Dissident Automotive, and they've created some carbon fibre parts that effectively replace the regular cheap plastic parts that you have on them, which is always something we love. This, however, we need to talk about. This is a car that's for sale. White with blue stripes, 4-option car, so stripes, painted calipers, wheels, and the sound system upgrade. But this is the kind of car that I would buy, because we often talk about this, and people regularly send me links to cars that are super low mileage, perfect collector cars. I like a car that's been driven. This has some miles on it. It's got a few stone chips and things on it. It's almost the perfect type of thing for me, and I've spoken about these regularly. I'm actually going to come around to the other side to pop it open. This is a car that was a US car, late 2005, brought to the UK in 2006, and it's been looked after regularly here by the team at GT101. If you pop open the back of these things though, the way you do it is that there's a catch on both sides. Lean over, pop that up, and back here we have that 5.4 litre supercharged power plant. Now this car has the smaller pulley on the front, which takes power up to around 600 horsepower from 540. It's got a Hefner exhaust system on it as well, but having driven 18,000 miles or so means that nobody would be really offended by changing the colour of it, or, make sure that's closed down, doing some good miles with it. So if I was going to buy one of these, this might be the one to go for. This would be, well, this is really tempting, really, really tempting, because one day I'd love to add one of those to go with this. If we come through to the workshop, where of course the GT500 was up on the ramps, effectively my GT has had annual service, MOT, which is the annual roadworthiness check that we have here, and the guys have given it a full check over, including things actually like weighing the discs to make sure those are all good, and just really prepping it for some big things that are going to be happening down the line. Coincidentally, there is a Mustang Bullet just there, which was the rare kind of edition of the 6th gen. So there's no question these two would be very cool together. And one of the big things about this, which I find fascinating, right, is that this is such a different car to that. Supercharged V8 manual to twin turbocharged V6 dual clutch to carbon monocoque pure racing experience, whereas that was 100 years of Ford and more of a road car. There were some race car derivatives made and run by privateers, but it's a very different type of driving experience, yet they share a lot of design similarities and styling cues that link back to the GT40s. Yeah, I might go and have a chat off camera with Dave about that one. We'll have to see. For now, let's pull this outside, get ready to take the GT back home. Out the workshop it goes. Gosh, I love the look of this car. I always have. As I said earlier, it is a very, very special thing. The only thing that can make it more special is if it sat in the garage alongside one of those. Ongoing discussion there. For now, we will gear up to take this home, grab Shmoo the Cow from the Genesis, which is just over there, and take this back to base to get it back to the Shmeemuseum. Let us get ready to drive this thing. So the last time I drove it was at the Brussels Auto Show. It really does sound good. When, of course, the car was transported back by Turbo Transport, came back to the Shmeemuseum literally kind of overnight before it came here to GT101, just before I went to the United States. But of course, Shmoo the Cow is along for the ride, coming in the Ford GT with me. So let us make a move, start this drive. Brad is driving the Genesis today. Got to remember to drive on the left side, not the right side, the not right side, which would be the wrong side. It's very confusing, having come just back from the US. Right, we are good to go. Not with the most fuel in the world though. I wonder if I've got enough to get home. This could be a little bit suspect. 66 miles, it's not a load, but where there is a will, there is a way. We shall figure it out as we go, and maybe stop along the way somewhere, but for now, it's always good to be back in this thing. And I tell you what, the servicing, which is obviously going to be a big part of what we talk about here, is not that expensive. There are some big costs. There have actually been some enormous costs, but generally speaking, it's not been crazy. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about this car, is that to run, it's fairly sane, it's fairly sensible. This is not a particularly helpful roundabout with traffic, but out we squeeze. Man, the seating position in here, you are so low to the ground, it's proper spaceship territory, honestly. It's really kind of that, what am I driving every time? Even though I've driven it 12,000 miles or so, I still feel a little bit almost overwhelmed at first about what I'm actually piloting. All right, the journey is ahead of us. Let's go. You've got to love a bit of open road. And using the revs. It's hard to believe sometimes that this has a V6, and I tell you what, this and the 296 GTS in the garage both do a cracking job of sounding amazing, despite having only, if we say that, 6-cylinder engines. Because there is that cliched thing of, it's a Ford GT, it must have a V8, right? And we've spoken about that so many times over the years. But this sounds absolutely awesome. As a Lotus Evora comes past, or was about to come past, until that Fiesta just basically pulled out on him, which wasn't very friendly of it. But anyway, those things can sound really loud. Also, with a V6, as it happens, we have some traffic. And after the traffic, we're going to have a nice acceleration out of the roundabout, which makes it all worthwhile. It is crazy driving this, though, on a normal road, you know, normal basis, like not on a rally or at an event or something like that, just out on the highways, because that's when you know people are just kind of like, what is that? He's actually looking more at the Evora than this, or maybe, I don't know. This is like a proper head turner, as much as these things could ever be. It's so low to the ground, it's so unusual. And one of the things I've always said I love about the Ford GT is that people don't really know what it is. People don't know, or they assume it's a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that. But as soon as they realize it's a Ford, there are no preconceptions about like what kind of person drives this type of car, as there are with some of the others, you know, Lamborghinis, for example. And that makes it quite fun to own. Well, that's all we're going to get, because we've got an average speed camera controlled reduced speed limit section. But it makes it really fun to own, and it's just part of the reason I enjoy having effectively a collection of Fords with this and the GT500 and the Dark Horse and the Focus RS and the Transit Custom MSRT now as well. No longer the Mustang Mach-E, of course, that's been returned back to Ford. But I guess this is going to be a leisurely stroll. No roadworks going on, but reduced to 40 miles an hour. Can't change that. Well, the good news is that we have a tunnel, so manual, window down a touch, of course. Drop some gears, nothing behind me right now. Drop down to second gear, and go for it. This thing sounds amazing at the red line. The scream. It's really cool. You get all sorts of different sounds coming out of it as well. absolutely love it. Right, let me put it back into automatic, back on cruise control, back doing our thing. Normal business resumes as we cruise onwards, past an ST, making our way back to base. This thing is really cool. Now I'm going to use a cheat sheet on this one because I want to run you through all of the costs, all of the expenses, as I mentioned earlier. So we're talking servicing, we're talking new tires, we're talking brake pads that we've had as well, we're talking insurance, we're talking road tax, all of the costs that I have accrued owning this for 5 years. In fact, a couple of months over 5 years now since taking delivery. It was an interesting buy process actually for the car because firstly to the American viewers, unfortunately we had to pay a ton more money for them here than in the United States. In the US it was $500,000. Here it was about £550,000, and the exchange rate is the other way around, which at the time, I can tell you, because I did work it out, at the then currency rate, meant that this was a $730,000 car, which is about what you would pay for the full high-spec special versions of it. So arguably a lot more in comparison, but of course that's with UK VAT, which is 20%, and all of the things needed to bring them to the UK in the first place. And it's very cool to have one, because at the end of the day, there are only, what, 35 of these in the United Kingdom in total? It's not a big number. It's not a big number at all when you consider that there are like 1,000 Ferrari 812 Superfasts, for example. It's tiny in comparison. Anyway, let's get on to this. It had an initial running-in service, which was effectively a 600-mile, 1,000-kilometre oil change. That was £600. It then had its first annual service, which I actually needed also a full set of new tyres, following the burn-up at the burn yard, and that was done at Galpin in the United States. So its first full oil change service was in the US. That was $2,900, which came in at £2,400. It then had its second service over here, by which point I'd done quite a lot with it. So as well as having its second year annual go-over service, it also needed new pads. New pads, obviously, being a Ford GT, were very expensive. In fact, the pads are about £3,500 themselves, which, along with everything else it needed, made that second year service about £6,000. Third service, very simple oil change. There was £800. Fourth service last year was £1,500, and the fifth service was £1,300, which means in total for servicing, I spent, what is that, £12,600 over 5 years, about 2.5 a year, including a set of tyres and a set of pads. Not all that bad, to be honest. Throw on top of that the 5 years of tax, which in total has been £2,455. We'll call it £2,500. Effectively £500 a year. You pay a heavier amount in the first year, but that's included in the buy price of the car, so I don't have that exact number. And after, is it 6 years, the number goes down. So after next year, it goes down to like £180 a year, or add some inflation, it'll be about £200 a year by that point. Along the way, also, around the back, exhaust systems. I bought the Akrapovic exhaust that I had installed in the United States. I actually got a good deal on it. It cost me about £5,000 at the time. I'm not going to include that because that was a voluntary, let's say, upgrade. There was a problem with the stock one, which is why I replaced it, but I decided rather than just change it for the same, I bought the Akrapovic one. Obviously, since we've changed it to the Quicksilver system, working with Quicksilver, which has been amazing on that front, and there's going to be another change as well, I think, but we're doing something cool, and I don't want to explain too much because they're still working on it at the moment. Anyway, other thing that had to be done, windscreen. I had a pretty big smash to the windscreen at one point, so I had to get a new one. Those are expensive, about £2,500, but it's done through windscreen insurance, so I only had to pay £100 of that, so not all that bad. £100 at the end of the day for a £2,500 windscreen is not that big a deal. So if we take out the exhaust and the windscreen, because they're not really fair, tax and servicing, I spent a total over 5 years of £15,100, so about £3,000 a year. It's not really that bad for a car like this, is it? It's not a whole lot of money, to be totally honest. Don't get me wrong, £3,000 a year adds up when you start talking about every single car, but compared to some, and compared to, I guess, where this positions on the market, I think that's a pretty good deal. However, this is where it all goes very wrong, because there is one topic I have not yet listed off there, which is insurance. Now, insurance is enormous. you have to consider the value, and you have to consider on insurance, especially the fact that I drive it a lot, taken this to loads of different places, done some good mileage in it, and obviously have a lot of exposure for the car, which is always going to impact the insurance price. I have paid, on average, and it's fluctuated up and down a little bit, each year, each individual year, not total, £10,000. So about £50,000 in insurance for this. 10,000 a year makes the 3,000 a year for servicing seem quite small, doesn't it? So we're about £65,000 plus an exhaust, £70,000 into the Ford GT in 5 years, in addition to buying it for about £550,000. At the end of the day, I'm incredibly lucky to be able to do so, but it certainly adds up. Insurance for the entire fleet, I mean, you could stick another zero on the end of that policy. It's a big number, and frustratingly, even though never in my life, I should touch some wood here, have I ever had actually I'm gonna go and touch some wood, because otherwise I'm dooming myself. This is some kind of, there's gotta be some timber in there somewhere. Never have I ever had a claim of my own fault in my entire life, 20 years of driving. Long may it continue that way, but still, it's a very big policy to have to deal with a lot of cars, obviously with the Zenvo, with all the Ferraris, the Black Series, and all the other cars that are around. So it adds up a lot, and it's an interesting one, because often the big hitter with a car is depreciation. The Ford GT, luckily, hasn't depreciated. I'm pretty sure if I wanted to advertise this for £550,000, I'd get that money on it very quickly. I don't know where exactly the value sits, but at least as the GT goes, it hasn't depreciated. So you can kind of forget the rest. In fact, probably if it was 620,000, it would go very quickly. So it's in a good place. The car is in a very good place overall, and fundamentally, I enjoy driving it a lot. I've been very lucky through what I do to make a ton of videos with it, obviously, which help keep this whole operation running. It's all the kind of business behind it. That's basically part of the point. But this is a car which is really, let's say, personally motivated now. It's not a car that's here because it's brand new and it's going to do tons of views on the channel. I mean, maybe it will, and I'd love to do some big upcoming adventures with it, and I've got an idea in mind, perhaps, to take it back to the United States. That's something I'm working on, considering when, what events, etc. But it'd be really cool if I can pull that back off. And just how much personally this car means to me. I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole lot here is like a dream every day. Coming in here, it doesn't really feel real. I know that sounds cliched, but it's like, how did this ever happen? But if there was one car to keep forever, one car, if you told me I had to get rid of everything and could just keep one, and I don't mean on a daily driver basis, I mean one like special memento of the last 14 and a bit years of making Shmee on 50 videos, it is that car and everything to do with that car, the memories of that car, the story of that car. So combine that with the personal like experiences and things, and it's a very special thing. There's no extended warranty. Ford don't offer one. So it came with 3 years of warranty. After that, unlike say on the Ferraris where you can spend £7,000 or something a year for the warranty, and the same with a lot of the others, there's no option. Now, warranty, you have to consider, is ultimately something that makes a profit for the business that's supplying the warranty, whether that's the manufacturer or whether that's the third-party warranty company. So ultimately, if you have access to good connections for parts and labor to do work, and if you're, let's say, making video content about it, warranty is kind of something that's hard to justify. I think with some brands like Ferrari, it's worth keeping it in their system, which eventually down the line can mean the car is Classic A. But I'm not too disappointed with this, because I guess if something happened, it wouldn't be, hopefully not too disastrous. If the engine goes or the gearbox goes, then it's a problem, but hopefully that's not about to happen. If that does happen, I'll be very stressed, and there might be a video series of rebuilding my Ford GT, but hopefully that never happens. Either way, it's not crazy. I think I've spoken about it a couple of years ago and gave a run over at the time of the costs and things that were involved, but it's not been a huge sum. It's not too much to worry about. And for the privilege of owning a car like this, and for Shmoo the Cow coming for the ride in it, I would say we're doing all right. So don't forget, Shmoo the Cow is back. I don't know how long he'll be around for. I would guess not very long. So if you're keen to get your hands on one for this drop, they are now available in the Shmee on 50 eBay shop. There will be more potentially in future, so if they have already sold out by the time you see this video, please stay tuned. You can actually follow the shop to keep in touch with when they do drop and when the special things we have planned as well for the future arrive there too. So do grab one while you can. For now though, I'm going to leave him having a little rest right here on the Ford GT and wrap this one up for now. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video and that, well, fairly open rundown of the costs behind owning this car to date. That's it for now though. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.